Hi everyone, can you hear me? Just doing some couple of last minute checks on my live. Hi Caroline, hope you're well. I'll be with you in a few minutes. Hi JD Cougar, happy Valentine's Day to you. Hi Yolandi. Hi Patty. Caroline's saying hearing me. Hi Heather, brilliant. Just give me 1 second and I'll be with you in a minute, honestly. Just a couple of last things I need to do. I've literally just come off a Zoom call, so I'm running a bit late. And then I can sit down and I can talk to you all. You can hear me, Linda, brilliant, thank you. Hi from Connecticut, Darlene. Right, let me move everything. I hope that I don't disconnect us. Put my phone where I can see all the comments. Make sure everything's plugged in. Get rid of that. Bring over my other chair. Right, let's see what's happening. So we've got Caroline, JD Cougar, Yolandi, Heather, Darlene, Linda. Caroline saying happy Valentine's Day to everybody. Alan Green, hi Ashley, sorry it's been such a long time. Don't worry about it, Alan, it's fine. Have you been okay or have you been poorly? You've just been busy with other things. Hi Ellen, hope you're okay. Hi Rachel. Yeah, I'm fine. Are you, Rachel? Lisa Davis. Hi, Lisa. Hello, Ashley and everyone from Illinois, USA. Happy Valentine's Day. Christine is saying happy Sunday / Valentine's, everyone. Barbara Harty is saying hello, Ashley and everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. Alison Morgan is saying hi, Ashley and my crafty friends. Charlotte, wow, you're all jumping on now. Hi, Charlotte. Charlotte's another one from, oh, is it, have I read that wrong? Was it Illinois or have I read, oh. Yes, Mandy G, hi, hope you well. Yes, I am. Hi, Thea. Hi, Marcia. Hi, Lynn. From the sunny Costa Blanca. Rachel, you're fine. Marcia's saying bitter cold here today, -7. Wow, it's, excuse me, it's actually cold here as well. It's been cold for the last few days. Still got snow on the ground in places, but it's supposed to be starting to get warmer, so fingers crossed and all that. Right, so as I said, I've actually been on a Zoom call for the last few hours. And this time it's me that's been learning. Somebody I know decided to host a Zoom session about Etsy. So I've been listening to a chat on Etsy this afternoon, and it was actually still going on when I left. I had to leave because I didn't realise how long I'd been on and what the time was. Fortunately, I printed this stuff that you can see here on my desktop. I printed this morning. Now, I can't remember who it was, but somebody was asking about direct cut and ScanNCut data last week when I was showing how to make a cutting file from that cup cozy thing I made. And I said we could have a look at ScanNCut data. I've not actually got anything planned at all, I'll be honest with you, other than this is what I've got so far. So, you know, I've no idea whether we're going to actually learn anything tonight. But we'll see. Philip is saying, hi Ashley, hope you're not too frozen. I know, it has been cold. Alan's saying, no, just busy with other things. Lockdown has brought out the crafting stuff. Great, yeah. I know what you mean. I think I'm busier in lockdown than when I used to actually go out to work. It's crazy stuff. Right, so it was Charlotte. Okay, I was going to say Charlotte, but I'm rubbish with names, so I didn't want to say it in case I got it wrong. But thank you. So yes, it was me asking about the print to cut versus scan to cut. Thanks for addressing it. Okay. Well, like I say, I've not actually really got anything planned, Charlotte. So, you know, I don't know whether you're going to learn anything or not, quite frankly. So what I'm going to do, let's flip to the machine. Hopefully, I'm just going to move my iPad around. I've got a couple of different things that I printed off on the computer. I've got a couple of things that I've stamped, and I've also got on the side some designer series paper. So the first thing to address when we go to the machine and go to scan, there are actually three options. The two that we tend to use the most are direct cut and scan to cut data, but then there's also scan to USB. So that one really is, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, we've got to remember that although this is an electronic cutting machine, it's a scanner in its own right. So if you've got a document that you need to scan, if you've got an old photograph that you want to scan and try and preserve, then scan to USB, the third option, is the option for you. So basically you would put a USB stick into your machine, you'd load up a mat, either your scanning mat or a, you know, one of your other mats, put your document or your photograph, whatever it is you want to scan, on the mat and choose scan to USB, and it will save it as an image. What you're saying. Patty H is saying, I am hibernating today, 5 degrees. Charlotte's saying, I like impromptu sessions, you learn a lot that way. Yeah, well, I'm going to be learning hopefully as well, because there's some things in here that I don't use. Mandy G saying, flying by the seat of your pants. Definitely, this is definitely a flying by the seat of your pants session. Hi Karen, hope you're okay. Charmaine saying, hello, I got the time wrong, we'll watch later. Oh, don't worry Charmaine, I've literally only just started. So that's the first three options. Can you let me, I might need to bring you up a little bit. I don't know whether you can see this. Hope I won't cut you off. Give me 1 minute. There's a glare on there now. I'm trying to get rid of that glare. There you go. I've put the camera up higher. Just want to see if I can get you nearer. So Yolanda's saying it's a nice sunny day in South Africa. Oh, lovely. It definitely isn't here, Yolandi. Right, I'm just I'm watching it on YouTube and it's just catching up now, so hopefully the glare will go in a minute. And I've brought the camera in and you should be able to get a better view of the screen. So this is what I'm talking about here. So you've got direct cut, scan to cut data, scan to USB. So the third option is, as I've just said, if you want to scan a document and save it, that's what you use. Scan to cut data is basically, sorry, start again. Direct cut, which is the first option here, the one with the like the two leaves, is basically what you use instead of using a pair of scissors. So let's just say you stamp a flower onto a piece of card and you want to fussy cut it. Your fussy cutting option in that respect is direct cut. Okay, I can see the screen whizzing up, so what's going on, what we're saying. Hi Vicky, hope you're okay. Still minus 35 in the mornings here. Oh my word. Alan Green saying that's better. Okay, now I've moved the camera. Hi Val, hope you're okay. Happy Valentine's Day to you in Ontario. Okay, so direct cut. You've stamped an image, you want to cut it out, but you don't want to use a pair of scissors. That's your direct cut. You've got a piece of pattern paper with a shape on it. You want to cut it out. That's direct cut. The second option, the one with the singular leaf on its own, so the middle icon, if you like, of the three that you see when you go into scan. Oh, Heather has put fussy cut and it's just, yeah, it's fine, I think. Yeah, YouTube are holding your comment. Happy Valentine's Day, girls. Karen's saying, yes, same to you, Karen. So your middle option, scan to cut data, basically is, I want to save this. I want to scan it, but I want to save it in that I then might want to adjust it later. Okay, so let's start with the easy one, which is direct cut. So let me just bring you back here. I'm just going to bring in a mat. So literally this morning what I did, I stamped a few shapes on white card, and then I also just went onto the internet, onto Google, and I printed a couple of shapes. So I've got, you know, a couple of little different bits here, and we'll just see how we get on. So what I'm going to try and do here now, I can see a comment, I'll look at it in a minute. Basically, I'm going to scan this into the machine and I'm going to use direct cut, and I'm going to ask the machine to cut out this shape here in the top left hand corner, which is the square with like the wavy edge around it. So if I wanted to fussy cut that with a pair of scissors, then obviously I would just cut it out and that's it. But if I want to get the machine to do it for me, that's direct cut. So Ellie is saying, hi all, I'm a newbie. I bought my first ScanNCut after emergency spinal surgery in October. Left me unable to continue working as a carer. Oh, bless you, Ellie. I have been binged watched all of your videos. Actually, you are fab. Well, welcome, Ellie. Vicky is saying at Heather, it means to cut out of a specific shape for a pattern or stamp. Sorry, yes, fussy cutting, yes. Vicky's saying welcome, and Heather's saying thanks, Vicky. Right, okay, I think we're all back on track, aren't we now? So let's go back to the machine. I'm going to load this mat into the machine. And then wait for you to catch up, because I seem to be a few seconds ahead of what I'm actually seeing on my phone, which is what you're all watching. Barbara's saying you're in for weekly treats, Ellie. Oh, thank you, Barbara. And Alison's saying welcome to Ellie too. Oh, lovely. Right, so direct cut. So I'm going to go, I've loaded the mat. I'm going to go to direct cut. the machine will ask you where you want to save the temporary scan, because obviously we're scanning something through it and it wants to know what to do with it. So I want to just temporarily save this into the machine because I want the machine to cut it. If you were scanning something in that you wanted to send to Canvas Workspace to be able to, you know, maybe try and manipulate or add to it or something like that, then you would use this second option here, which looks like a computer and a Wi-Fi. And that can go to either Canvas Online or Canvas for Computer. Terry, don't worry, I'm literally only just starting. So for now, I'm going to say the machine because I want the machine to cut this out for me. So I'm going to say start. Ellen saying welcome, Ellie from Ellen. I love it that you all chat together as well. So there's nothing much happening on the mat, so I don't want to move the camera to see the mat. It's all kind of all on screen at the moment. So basically what it's done, it's taken the mat in and it's trying to pick up what I've got on my mat. And as I said, it's this top left-hand corner I want to have a look at initially. So I'm going to say OK. And then I'm going to drag in the handles because I don't know whether it's actually seeing it or not. So I'm just going to isolate that top left-hand corner. Now I have no idea whether it's picking it up. Sometimes when you're scanning, particularly at night, now it's going darker and you've got electric lights on, that can affect your scans. So I've literally just isolated that. I'm going to say preview and see if it picks it up. If it doesn't pick it up, we'll try something else. Okay, so there it is, it's seen it. So I'm going to say OK. Now, from here in direct cut, you're a bit more limited than you are with scan to cut data. So the first box here is where you can choose to have an offset cut around what it's seeing, and that's the one I normally choose. I like to have a 0.04 offset around my shapes I'm cutting. But if I just exit out of that for now, the other option here is that you could put a shape around it. So for instance, if this was something circular, or no, that's maybe not quite a good analogy, but if this was something that you wanted to put a different shape around, you can choose the second option. Basically, the first part is it will just do you an outline. You could put a circle around it. So if I wanted to put a circle around that shape I've just scanned, it will put a circle around it. If I want to put a scallop around it, it will cut a scallop around what I've stamped on this piece of card. If you hit the little arrows, you can go down. There's like a starburst, there's a box, there's a rounded corner box. So there's different shapes that you can use. I'm just going to use the offset, which is what I prefer to do. Rachel's saying, Ellie, I got a ScanNCut for Christmas 2 years ago and Ashley has taught me so much. I love it. Was so scared of it. Oh, brilliant. Thanks, Rachel. Right, so let's go back to this. So I'm going to click the plus and I'm going to put a 0.04 offset. Can you all still see that? I don't know if I've got my ScanNCut at a slightly different angle than I normally do. Let's move you down a little bit. So I'm going to say, put me a 0.04 offset around it, and I'm going to say OK. Then I'm going to say OK again. So it's going to process that. And now I can say select and cut. I've got my blade in. And we'll just send it through. So Patty H is saying, wow, I didn't know about that option. What about adding a shape instead of the offset? See, well, there we go. It's been worth doing it, hasn't it? Somebody's learned something. Right, I'm going to flip you back. Just give me 1 minute. I'm kind of juggling. I'm going to say okay to delete that and unload. So now, Alan's saying, will the shape put around your selection be centralised automatically? I think it will, Alan, but I've got more things on this mat, so we'll try that in a minute. That's why I only wanted to cut one thing at a time. I mean, I know I scanned it all at once, but that was why I just isolated that so we can use the various elements that are on here. So we'll try that in a minute, Alan. So Alison Morgan is saying, Rachel, me too, but have used my Gemini to make most of the Valentines. I'm hooked too. I just received the paper piercing kit yesterday and excited to play with that one. Oh, well done, Ellie. Well, I've done, we did do a live last year on the paper piercing kit. So if you go on the channel here where you are now, if you go to there's a section that says playlists, and under the playlist there's a playlist called Live. If you click on that and scroll back, we did do paper piercing last year. Right, so Patty, you didn't know about adding the shaping rather than the offset. Okay, that's fine. Charlotte's saying, I didn't know about that shape either. Very useful. Yeah, it is, and there's quite a few different shapes in it. Just learned something new. Did not know about the shapes. Oh, brilliant. So it has been worthwhile. So if I do nothing else now for the next rest of this hour, at least you've learned something. Ah, brilliant. Right, so let's just peel this corner up and get the little, so there is the little, I'll try and get it closer. There you go. So there's the shape that I scanned using direct cut and added the 0.04 offset and got the machine to fussy cut it out for me. Okay, so that is to save me using scissors, and I'm not quite sure how well you'll see it, but even though I've added the 0.04, it's actually followed the wavy shape of the edge of this stamped image. Not sure how well you're going to see it. Hang on, I need to get my camera skills working. Can you see the wavy edge here on the white edge? And that's because the scanner has picked up the wavy edge of the black stamped image that I stamped this morning. So that's scan to direct cut. So that's one way of using it. What we'll do now, we'll go back, I'll put this piece back on, and we'll have a look at putting a shape, and we'll see whether it centralises it or not. So I'll flip you back to the machine, and then just before I go any further, I need to just catch up on your comments. So light bulb, my CM550 does have these options in direct cut mode, including the offset, doesn't it? I think it does, Vicky. Heather's saying, I watched the live paper piecing recently. It was so helpful, thank you. Oh, great, brilliant. All these Sunday night lives, and when we were in lockdown last year, I was doing the Wednesday night lives. They're all in a specific playlist called Live. So if you ever want to look at something and you think, I remember doing that in a live, just go back to the playlist, the live playlist, and look through. And I always put the date on them. Unlike, well, last week when I put January and it was February. But, you know, I did go back and change it. But I do always put live, and I put the date, and then I put what we're doing, okay? And then all my other regular videos that go up on a Tuesday, or if I post anything on another day, they go in specific playlists as well. So if it's something that I'm just doing directly on the machine, there's a ScanNCut machine playlist. If it's something that I'm doing in Canvas Workspace, there are 2 Canvas Workspace playlists. There's one Canvas Workspace for computer and one Canvas Workspace online. If something I'm doing goes over both you know, both categories. If it's something that I start off in Canvas and then I do it in the machine, I put it in both playlists. So there's always hopefully ways for you to find everything. Right, let me just see what else we're saying. Doesn't have them in ScanNCut data mode. No, because ScanNCut data is a little bit different. I think the shapes are just in direct cut, but we'll look at that in a few minutes. So let's just have a look at direct cut again, but using a shape this time, and see whether it centralises it or not. Mandy G is saying very neat finish, looks so pretty. Caroline's giving it a thumbs up. Christine's saying, are these features only with ScanNCut? What do you mean, Christine? This is a ScanNCut YouTube channel using ScanNCut machine. I noticed how well it followed the outline. Impressive. Looks like a large stamp. Yeah, it does. It's a new stamp set I've got, actually. I got it for free. Because it's a Stampin' Up one, and I got it free because I'd done a kind of like a certain amount of sales last month. Charlotte's right, the ScanNCut machine is the only one with the built-in scanner. Charmaine, if you go into your settings and change your inches to millimetres, it will tell you what the equivalent of the 0.04 is in millimetres. Oh, Vicky's done it, I've just seen it, about 1 milli. Okay. But Charmaine, if you go into the settings, the wrench icon, and have a look there. Right, let's get this back in the machine and let's have a look what Alan said. So I'm going to say OK to finish cutting. I'm going to load the mat. Right, I'm going to hit the home button and say it's OK to get rid of all that. I'm going to go back to scan. I'm going to do direct cut again. Yes, save it to the machine and start. Now, what I could do, let's see if we can do it from here. I'm going to change the scan area. So I'm going to change it to 12 by 6, so it hopefully will save time. It will only scan the half of the mat I want to use. Let's see if I can. So if I use 12 by 6, it's going to only scan the top half of the mat for me. So we'll say OK for now and OK, and we'll press start. It might just save, you know, a few seconds instead of scanning the whole mat. It only takes it in to cover that first 6 inches. Because what I'm going to try and do is pick up on the flower up here on the top right. So I'm going to say OK. I'm going to isolate this flower over here on the far right. It's also picking up all the cut lines on my mat. I'm going to say preview. And it looks as though I'm only getting the flower. It might have got a little bit of a cut mark up there, but we'll see in a few minutes. So we'll say OK. So this time now it's picked up the flower. It only scanned the top 12 by 6 inches because that's how I set it in the settings. And we'll go now to the shapes. So we'll choose a circle and we'll say OK. And we'll go into edit and we'll zoom in and see if it's centralised it. So let's scroll over. So it looks as though it puts the shape as close as it can get around what you've selected. And can you see that tiny little circle just up there? That's something that it's picked up in the scan. So we'll say OK for now. We'll say, yeah, that's acceptable. I'm going to use the little arrow and it's going to jump to the other thing it's scanned, and I'm just going to hit the trash and send it to the trash rather than mess about getting the blade to cut that tiny little dot. So now we'll say OK, OK, select and cut. and it should just cut the circle around my flower. So Mandy G is saying, didn't know about only scanning half the mat either. Oh well, people are learning something, that's great. So flying by the seat of my pants and impromptu is working. Right, let's just move you back. I'm going to say okay and unload the mat. And bring this back in. So now, when I take this away, here is my little flower with a circle. And all this that we've done so far, remember, is all under Scan to Direct Cut. So now, I'm going to put that on one side. I've got some pattern paper here. I'm just going to put the whole sheet on for now. In fact, no, hang on. Give me a minute. I can reach my trimmer. Just going to cut this piece down to about 6 inches. Just to make it a bit easier to deal with. So is there any... So let me just, I'm catching up on comments. So Ellen's saying, Ashley, above where it says ignore object edit, it looks like there is a sliding scale. If the machine didn't pick up the image, would you use that? Yes, you can. It's the, I can't remember what it's called. We'll have a look at it in a minute. Right, I'm going to put this piece of pattern paper on this mat, and I'm going to see, oh, my fingers are sticking to the mat. I'm going to see if I can cut out this little guy here, okay? Not in a shape. I'm going to try and cut it out like I cut the first stamp. Alan's saying, thank you, Ashley. Yes, I can see now. Good. Would you then be able to put an offset on the frame you have done around the stamped image? I think so. We'll look at that in a minute as well. Mary's saying, so many changes from the CM650. I think you can also add an offset to the circle. Sorry, rather late, so we'll catch up later. Don't worry, Tony, it's fine. Right, let's go back to the machine and load the mat while you're catching up with me. I'm going to hit the home button, say OK to delete all patterns. So again, we're going to go to Scan, we're going to go to Direct Cut, and we're going to temporarily save the scan into the machine. Now I'm going to go into the settings and I'm going to change it back to 12 by 12 because I've put this kind of centrally-ish to the mat. So we'll say OK and start and just let it scan the whole mat this time. Alan, the trimmer is what I sell in my Stampin' Up shop. It's the Stampin' Up paper trimmer. It also, excuse me, it cuts and scores. Charlotte's saying we're really loading you up with things to explore. Definitely are. Right, so I can see the piece of paper. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to use the handles again to try and isolate this little guy here. Now, because there are so many other things close around it, if it picks it up, it may pick up some of the other stuff as well, but we'll see what we get. So I'm going to say preview. It's picked up the outline. So you mean this, don't you? So when you click on that, basically you can adjust the darkness or the lightness. If you're struggling to see your scans, you can use that. If it's picked up other things on the map, you can use this ignore object size. I'm not so sure if there's something on my screen or if it's picked up some little bits here. So if I say to it, ignore anything, this looks about possibly 2 inches wide. So if I say, ignore anything up to about 1 inch, those little marks that I can see on the screen, I'm not sure how well you can see them, have now disappeared. So it's ignoring anything under 0.39 of an inch, or we can say up to ½ an inch or more. And I can see those little bits it's picked up, which are, you know, probably parts of the printed image around it. It's ignored those now. So I'm just left with my little shape. So if I say okay, okay again, let it process. And then again, I could choose to put a shape around it, which I wouldn't do with this, because if I put a shape around it, it might encroach into the other little images that are around it. So this is where I would use just the offset. And my preference is 0.04. So I'd say okay, okay, and cut. And start. So yes, once you scan it, there are a couple of different options that you can use, you know, to try and eliminate anything that it may have picked up, or maybe something that you want a bit more of a contrast to. So I'm going to flip you back because that's finished now. Unload this mat. I think basically, Vicky, I think it just, where's my flower? Let's bring the flower back in. I think it just hugs the shape. So I'm not so sure about actually centralised. I think it basically just hugs as best it can the actual shape. Right, so let's come back to this one. So now that's got my 0.04 offset around it. So this is all under direct cut. Okay, so now let's bring in, this is copy paper that I printed this morning. So we'll use ScanNCut data next. Right, so are there any questions? Thanks, Ashley. Often wondered what ignore object size meant. Yeah, it just basically means that if, when you're scanning something, if there are things nearby, or like I'm scanning on my cutting mat, it will pick up all the cut lines. So rather than, sometimes you'll see me do it, I'll say okay, and then I'll go in and I'll select each individual little bit and hit the trash can. But what you can do, if you kind of spot it before you get to that stage, you can say to it, look, you know, ignore something smaller than X, if you like, and then it won't pick up those in the scan. So Charlotte's saying the machine cuts fussier than I ever could. And Alison's saying so cute, the snail mail. Yeah, I know. Right, let's go back to the machine. Load this piece of copy paper that I printed on this morning. I'm going to hit the home button. OK to delete all those patterns. So now we're going to look at scan again, and then this time scan to cut data. I'm going to say start and let it scan the mat. Scan to cut data is if you want to save something to then be able to go back and either cut it at a later date or adjust it. Yes, Rachel, that's correct. If you use a die cut and then you use scan to cut data and save it, you can then enlarge it, correct. And that's what I'm going to do with one of these anchors. So I'm just going to wait for this to recognise. And I need to get a piece of card, but I'll get that in a few minutes, because I don't think the piece of card I've got will be big enough. Okay, so this anchor is a solid black anchor, but there's a hole in the top. If I just wanted the outline, a solid outline, I would choose the first option. I'm going to isolate that one anchor anyway, because I don't want all the others. Just going to, so let's just isolate that, and we'll say preview. So I'm not sure how well you'll see it, but basically, because I've chosen the first option, it's just only going to give me a cut line around the outside. So we'll say OK, and we'll save that into the machine for now. So I'll save it into the machine. Just waiting for it to save. So it's saved as pattern number 229. So now if we go to the second option and let it process, it's actually going to cut out the hole in the top of the anchor. So I'm going to save it again. So I'm going to say, OK, that's what I want, and save it into the machine. So that's pattern 230. So I'm going to say OK and hit the home button just for now and unload the mat. Now I'm just going to grab a piece of card. So I'm just going to unload this piece of paper for a minute, and I'm going to put a piece of card on this mat. So Just Josephine is saying, hello, have you ever used another mat onto your brother mat to extend the life of the mat? No, I haven't. I've seen people do that with silhouette mats. Some people buy cricket mats and stick them on top of their silhouette mats, but no, I've never done it. I just re-stick mine, Just Josephine. Right, so I've got a piece of white card on my mat. Let's go back to the machine and load this mat in. So now, because I use scan to cut data, I've saved those two scans into the machine. So basically what you need to do now, you don't go back to scan, you go to retrieve data. I'm going to go to the machine because that's where I saved it, and I'm just going to jump to the last page, and here are my two different anchors. So I'm going to select pattern number 229 and say OK, and then I'm going to say add. I'm going to go to retrieve data, back to the machine, jump to the last page, and I'm going to choose pattern 230 and say OK. So I've now got, I'm just going to have to undo that because I've moved it. Bugger. Let's see if we can, I'll start again. Let's go home. Okay, to delete all patterns. Right, retrieve data from the machine. Jump to the last page. Get the first pattern, which was number 229 without the hole, and say OK. So that's, I'm going to put that down here out of the way. I'm going to get to add, back to retrieve data. I don't know if you're making any comments because I'm looking away. I'll come back and look in a minute. Into the machine, jump to the last page and choose pattern 230. Now 230 is the one where I chose the second option, so that's got the hole in the middle. So when I say OK now, that is 2 elements and I want to group them. So the circle is highlighted on this anchor, so I'm going to say OK. I'm going to choose the 3 red boxes and the first option, which just lets me isolate that one anchor. I'm going to say OK, OK, because it's selected both bits. I'm going to say Object, Edit and Group. So I've now got my 2 anchors. The first one that I did just the outside, and the second one where I asked the machine to do the outside and the inside. Now, I can cut these exactly as they are, but I can also make them bigger, and that's what ScanNCut data does for you. It lets you save something that you've scanned and come back to it at a later date and cut it exactly as it was, or lets you make it bigger. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll leave the one with the hole at the normal size and the other one we'll make bigger. So I'm selecting the one that's just the outline. I'm going to come in here and it's 2.84 inches high. So we'll make it, say, 3.5 inches high. Just so that we can see the difference, and we'll say OK. OK again, OK again. I'm going to do a background scan and scan my mat with this piece of white card. And while that's doing that, I'm going to come back. Vicky's saying, check my other videos for mat maintenance tips. Yeah, fab, thank you. I've always been afraid to use text weight paper on a standard mat, but it looks like there's no bad consequences. It depends how sticky your mat is, Charlotte. This mat I'm using, my standard mat, is sticky enough, but I wouldn't use it if it was a brand new mat. And I'm not cutting on it. I was only using it as I'm only using it in this particular instance as a scanning aid, let's say. Alan's saying, I have successfully used a Cricut mat on top of my brother mat. Okay. I'm actually testing out another glue at the moment, and that's what's on this mat. Right, so let's see. Let's go back. You should be able to hopefully see my screen. So I've scanned the mat. It's found the piece of white card. I'm just going to say OK, select and cut. And then I can come back and catch up on the comments while it's doing this. Charmaine is saying, I have never understood the difference between direct cut and ScanNCut data. Thank you, I've got it now. Brilliant. Caroline is saying, Ashley, would you remind us how to rename the file? It's so nice to have all of this information in this video. You're still the bomb. You can't rename your file, Caroline, directly on the machine. So what you'd have to do, you'd have to send it to Canvas and name it in Canvas and then send it back. Right, let's flip you back. Unload the mat. Just going to have a quick drink of my juice. So Mandy's saying, light bulb moment, me too. Teresa's saying you can draw instead of cut. Yes, Using ScanNCut data, once you've saved it, you could draw it the same size or draw it bigger. Right, let's peel this off. I'm just going to move this mat. Just out of the way for 1 minute because I want to bring the printout back in. So, here's what I started with. I isolated just this one. They're all the same. It doesn't really matter. I just printed 3. Can't remember what I was thinking of this morning. But so I isolated this one. I firstly asked the machine to just give me the outline. So that's what it's given me here without the circle in the middle. And then on the second time I saved it with the circle cut out. And then when I went back into the file, I've asked it to make this bigger. So you can see, that's what I started with. That's it saved and made bigger, and that's it cut as it is. I'm not sure how well you're going to see that white on white, but so this is ScanNCut data. So this means we'd literally just, we're not fussy cutting. We're just saying to the machine, just scan this for me, save it, and I'll do something with it later, basically. Right, let's just see what's being said. Alan Green's saying, new glue, that's interesting. Will you be blogging about that soon? Yes, I've only literally been testing it for about the last 2 weeks, and I just kind of want to see how it performs while I'm cutting. It's not a new glue, if that makes sense. It's a glue that's been around for a while. It's just I've never used it before on my mats. You'll all know that I use the zig, wherever that is. It's in my drawer here somewhere. This is what I normally use to re-stick my mats, and it can be quite fierce. So I've been trying something else. But as I say, I wanted to test it out a bit first before I say anything. So yeah, I will let you all know in the next week or so what my findings are with it. Charlotte's saying, thanks Ashley and Vicky, you saved more than one friend some dollars since they won't have to get the low tap mat. Looking forward to glue information. Caroline's saying, oh, good reminder. Alison's saying, sorry guys, being quiet tonight. Don't worry, Alison, it's fine. Mandy G's saying, it would have taken me hours to suss out how to do that. And Teresa Haynes is saying, thank you. Karen's saying, you use the zig. Yeah, Karen, I've used the zig for years and years and years. But I just decided that I would try something else. That's what I'm using, Rachel, the stencil glue. Great minds think alike. And it is working fine, but I just want to see, because I do quite a bit of cutting, so I just want to see how it holds up and how the mats hold up to it and that kind of thing before I, put it out there that I'm using it. Because what I've discovered doing this YouTube over the last 6 years, and more so over the last, year when we've all been in lockdown, quite a lot of people kind of rely on what I say. So I don't want to, say, look, found this new saviour or whatever, and then it's not that great. So, but yeah, right. So that's ScanNCut data. So as somebody said, you could pull this file back up, you could draw it, you could make it as big as as you can cut on your mat. It's kind of horses for courses, really. Direct cut is the one I use the most. That's, I've stamped an image, or I've got a piece of, pattern paper and I want to cut something out of it. That's direct cut. ScanNCut data is when I want to save something. So like last week, the cup cozy. You all saw me draw around the cup cozy last week, and I wanted to use that to make the fabric project. That was ScanNCut data because I wanted to scan it and I wanted to save it to then be able to add the seam allowance, for instance, to it. In this particular case, I've wanted to scan it, save it and cut it bigger. So that's ScanNCut data. So any questions with regards to the scanning so far? I'm trying to think if I had anything else planned and I can't. I'm going to go back to the other stamped image, and I'm going to try that, adding a shape round it again and see if we can do the offset. So let's just move that piece of card out of the way, move them out of the way, bring my sticky mat back in. Let's put this back on the mat. So Ellen's saying, Ashley, when I use my scanner on the CM900, I see a long grey line that shows up on my scanner, even on a new mat. Right, Ellen, if it's not like what I showed you before about where you isolate just part of the mat, if you've got your 12 by 12 mat selected and you're seeing it, I would say there's something inside your machine that your scanner is picking up. Have you turned it over, Ellen, and opened the little trapdoor on the bottom of your machine to see if there's a piece of tape or a piece of thread or a piece of card or something? Because it sounds like your scanner is picking something up that's in your machine. Barbara's saying you've made it very understandable. Oh, thanks. You might need your scanner glass cleaning. Karen's saying, yeah. And Vicky's saying you probably have dirt on your scanning lens. Yeah. So we're all kind of saying more or less the same thing, Ellen. We just need to know whether you've turned it over and looked inside the scanner window to see if you can see anything. Right, let's go back to the ScanNCut machine now, and we'll try doing the adding of the shape and see if we can add the offset to it as well. Just need to rub this down on my mat a bit better. Where have I put my spatula? Right, I'm going to hit the home button and say OK to delete all patterns. So I'm going to go back to scan. Let me just bring my iPad in because it's my iPad that you're hearing my voice through. And I'm flitting from one desk to another here. Right, ScanNCut, no. Home, scan, direct cut. We're going back to direct cut, okay? I'm going to say save it temporarily into the machine, and I'm going to start the machine to scan the mat. And while it's scanning the mat, I've just seen Alan's made a comment, so let me see what it says. A bit off topic, but have you ever used the Chromus Creations engraving tip on acrylic? If yes, now the cheeky bit, can you have a plan for a lesson? the simple answer is no. I was contacted by somebody, I don't know if it was the back end of last year or the beginning of this year, I can't remember, and somebody wanted to send me an engraving tip to try, but, and I'm being very careful what I say here, but the wording of the contact email was asking me would I try it and give a positive review. So I said that I wasn't interested, because if I am going to make a comment on anything and, you know, put it out here on the internet, it's always going to be my honest opinion, whether I like it or not. And that's why I've not, you know, made any comments about this glue at the moment that I've been trying over the last few weeks, because the way I was approached, I felt as though they wanted to send me the product for a favourable review and not an honest review. And I can't remember whether the item that you've just mentioned was it, or whether it was another one. So the simple answer to your question is no, but I've not tried any of the engraving stuff that's out there. Right, are we back at the machine? We're back at the machine. Let's say okay. What should we go for? We'll go for, let's see if we can get one of, let's see if we can get one of these leaves. I'm going to try and isolate this top leaf. I'm going to say preview. I can't see any extra bits it's picked up, so I don't need to do ignore object size. So let's say okay. We'll go to the shape and let's scroll down and see what we've got. I'm trying to see if there's a shape that's, you know, kind of that, it's a bit oblong, no, what do you call it, ovalish, this flower I've scanned, but I can't. Let's just go with this little wavy thing. So I've selected the third one down. I'm going to say okay, and now we were saying could we put an offset on it, weren't we? So let's try 0.04, and the answer is yes. It's inflated that shape by 0.04. I'm going to say okay. I'm going to go into edit and I'm going to zoom in and go to 400%, and let's have a look if we think this is centralized. I'm going to try and bring you in a bit more. What do you think? So I've added a shape. I've been able to make that shape inflated by 0.04. I think it looks pretty centralised, to be fair. So I think I'm going to leave it as it is. What do you all think? Let's come back to your comments. Mandy's saying good for you, Ashley. What's that for? Oh, for me. Oh, right, okay. Good for you. This is why you are the go-to person for all things ScanNCut and Stampin' Up. Oh, thanks, Patty. Ashley, you are officially a celebrity. Yeah, because somebody wants to send me an engraving tip. Alan's saying, it's not a problem, folks. I'm just an experienced user. Looks it to me, Rachel's saying, looks good, looks central to me. So you all think it looks central, don't you? Right, let's say okay then. Okay again, and we'll go to cut and start. And I'll just move this camera back ever so slightly. Wait for this to cut, and then we'll bring it back under this other camera. Right, what's Barbara saying? What would happen if you covered a full A4 with stamped images? Could you cut them all out at one go? Yes. Well, I've got a couple of ovals on this piece of paper as well, so we'll try that as well. But yeah, but I can't remember whether you'd have to choose the shapes individually, or whether it, depending on what you've chosen, it will add both shapes to it. Right, let's come back to this one first. You are throwing the questions at me tonight now, aren't you? Patty H is saying, looks good. Oh my, this has opened up new possibilities. Barbara, we're going to come back to Barbara's in a minute. Ellen's saying looks good. Lisa's saying looks good. And Vicky's saying at Barbara Hearty, yes. Yeah, okay. Right, so let's take this one off. Right, so I need to flip you back. Forgot to flip cameras. So literally all as I've done is just peeled that off there. Okay, so there is my stamped image that I stamped this morning that you saw me scan. We've added a shape instead of doing the offset like we did with this one. No, this one. Let's get rid of that one. Got too many things on the go now. So this one we just added the straight outline and offset. This one we've scanned, added a shape and then inflated the shape by an offset amount, 0.04. This one we just added the circle to and left it as it was. So you can see there are so many options, aren't there? You know, depending on what you choose. But direct cut, I would say, is the one that you're probably going to use the most. Karen's saying, Barbara, I've done that myself. Yes. Okay, so all these different options. So let's just keep this back on here and then let's just give it a live try. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to scan these two oval stamped images and we're going to try and do what Barbara's just said, put a shape around it but cut both of them rather than cutting an individual one. So let's go back to the machine, load this back in, hit the home button, say OK to delete. So we'll go scan, direct cut, machine, start. Barbara's saying thanks, it just seems that there is some fiddling involved with map marks. I think I've asked a stupid question. No, you've not. Sandra's saying never ceases to amaze me what this machine can do, just need to be shown. Yeah, Karen's right, you just need to bring in the arrows if you're using a regular mat. If you're not using obviously you can't use a scanning mat if you're using direct cut, because as I said, direct cut is just literally replacing your hand and a pair of scissors. So to do direct cut, we need to be using a mat. So let's go back over it again for Barbara. So we've scanned the mat and it's got 4 images left on this mat. So I'm going to say, okay, I want to try and cut the 2 ovals that are here. You can see all this mess. Hang on, I don't know whether I'm saying you can. Let's move you in closer. Right, Barbara, I think the camera's stretched as far as it can stretch now, so I'll just wait for it to catch up. Barbara's saying, makes sense when I engage my brain. Right, so I'm just going to wait. Right, I can see on my phone now. So basically, it's scanned my mat and I'm after these two ovals here, but it's also picking up all these cut lines all on my mat, which I don't want. So we're going to bring in the red arrows, not the aeroplanes, and isolate this part of the mat for the two designs I want the machine to find for me. I'm going to say preview. I can see them and they look okay. There doesn't appear to be any other marks that, you know, the machine's not picked up any other marks or anything around it. I'm going to say okay. We'll go to the shape again. Let's scroll down and see what we've got. We'll go for a rounded rectangle. Let's put that around both those shapes. I'm going to say OK. We'll go to the offset and we'll add a 0.04 offset. So we've added a shape and an offset like we've just done with the leafy thing. And it is doing it to both items because we've isolated those. So in answer to your question, Barbara, as Karen said, if you fill a piece of paper up with a load of stamped images and you use direct cut and scan it, and then you want to put a shape around those images, it will cut everything in one go for you. I could have probably done that right at the beginning, but I only had a certain number of stamped images on this piece of paper and I wanted to use it in different ways. So let's say OK, OK, wait for it to process, select and cut, and then we'll start. Just going to move this camera back. And that's cutting, and then I can come back to your comments. I'm just going to come back to the desktop, unload the mat. Yeah, Vicky's right. Sometimes you do need to fiddle around with the ignore object size, or like I sometimes do, just select them and when they're red, you know, trash them. Mandy G is saying, I think I've got confused in the past because I've tried to use my scanning mat. Yeah, the scanning mat is more for is for ScanNCut data. So if you're using the normal scanning mat, you cannot cut on that. So then you've got to use the second option of the three that I said at the beginning. You've got to use ScanNCut data with a scanning mat. If you're using a cutting mat, then it's direct cut. So Karen's saying, I've never used my scanning mat. I used to use my scanning mat on my CM600 and CM900, but to be honest, Karen, I've not bought one for this machine. I just tend to use my regular mat now, no matter whether it's, you know, going to be a direct cut or a ScanNCut data. Right, so let's peel this off. Put that on one side. So here are two cut together now. So we've scanned it, we added a shape instead of, you know, doing an outline, and then to the shape we added an offset. And these were both, obviously, like you've just seen, cut at the same time. So you don't have to do it as an individual image. You could fill up a piece of paper. And obviously, you know, that's assuming as well that the scan picks up everything on your mat, because sometimes if you're using hand stamped images, you know, sometimes some are darker than others and it depends how we stamp them. But if you filled up a piece of A4 paper, you know, with all these flowers, so long as the scan can pick them all up, you know, that they've all been scanned nicely, then the answer, Barbara, is yes, you can do this. Right, what we're saying now. Thanks, Ashley and everyone. Will save much time. Janice is saying, is the purpose of the offset simply to enlarge it? Yes. So going back to my little snail mail man here, if I didn't apply the offset, the blade would follow this black outline. I personally just prefer to always have a little bit of a, you know, an whatever colour I've stamped on. Obviously this has come from paper and it's on a white background paper. I prefer to have the offset around it. If you don't like the offset, then don't apply it, and the cut line that the machine makes for you will follow whatever colour your outline is, in this case black. Right, what we're saying. So got Janice. Mandy's saying, could you have cut the leaves and the oval all at once with this process? Yes. Yes, Mandy, that's effectively what I've just done with these two shapes. It doesn't matter that I chose two ovals. I could have chosen an oval and a flower and applied the shape, but whatever shape you apply, it would apply to both. So if I, in this particular instance, chose the rounded rectangle, it would put a rounded rectangle around my oval, and if the other shape I had chosen was the leaf, it would put the rounded rectangle around the leaf. You can't choose two different shapes. Right, I'm missing comments, so you have to give me a minute to go back and catch up on them. So Karen's saying, I haven't either, only when I had the CM600. Alan Green is saying, if you try to cut on your scanning mat, your machine should tell you it's the wrong mat. Yes, it does. Rachel's saying, thank you, Ashley, so much for your time. Thumbs up, everyone. Caroline's saying, okay. Karen Lazenby is saying, the snail is so cute. Janice is saying, thank you. Barbara's giving it a thumbs up, so great. Vicky's saying, at Mandy G, do you mean can you get it to cut different shapes around multiple objects? Yeah, to my knowledge, you can only put one shape around. Let's see what we've got left on here. Let's come back to this. These are my last two shapes now. So let's go back. Oh, my fingers are sticking to the mat. Vicky's saying, please remember to put the thumbs up below the video. Oh, thanks for that, Vicky. Let's go back to the machine. Load the mat. I think this is going to be the last one now. Right, let's hit the home button. So we'll do one last. So we'll go scan, direct cut, save to the machine and start. So the only thing that's left on this piece of card now is the scribble flower and the scribble leaves. Ellen, you're welcome. So we'll wait for this to process. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to drag in the red handles to isolate these last two stamped images. Now I think it's picking up some of the scallop I cut out before, but it's quite big that, so I'm not going to use ignore object size on this one. So I'll say preview and see, let's see what we get. Yeah, it's picking up all those bits, so let's go back. No, I don't want to delete the scan, we won't go back. We'll say OK, and we'll try and let's go to edit. We'll go to the 3 red boxes. I don't want that, I want to, let's go back, sorry, I need to select something in where I want to get rid of first. Say OK, choose the 3 red boxes, we'll choose this. I think it's picking up. I think it's picking up I don't want all them, let's go back. I'm going to select something in here that I don't want. Get the 3 red boxes, drag this to try and isolate all that extra nonsense that it's picked up on my mat. Say OK, and now I should be able to delete all that. Okay, so I'm just left with what I want now. So hopefully you all saw that. So now we'll say OK, we'll go back to the shapes. What haven't we used? Let's try this. We've not used that. So can you see it's putting the shape around both of these 2 scanned sections. So you can't scan more than one object and then ask it to put a different shape around it. So does that make sense? So let's say OK. Thank you, Ashley. Dinner is ready. Have to go. Catch you through the week. Yes, Karen, don't worry. Take care. So we'll say OK. We'll let's go back and add an offset. I need to put my shape back on. So I've got my shape on. Got my offset on. Let's say OK. Select and cut. And start. Right, just going to move this out of the way. This is going to be the last one. So I've got all my little bits back in. Let's flip you back. Unload this mat. Just going to push my ScanNCut out of the way and get these off the mat, and I'll show you what it's done. So this one has cut perfectly fine. This one, where's that bit I just took off the mat? Can you see? Oh, hang on, wait a minute, got something rattling on my desk. This one, it's the bit it picked up on the scan from here was encroaching into this shape. So when I applied this shape, that previous one I've cut was too close to it, and that's the only reason why it's cut into that. It's not a fault of the machine, it's the fault of the fact that I had probably, if I'd maybe not put the 0.04 offset on it, I might have got away with not getting it. But because I put the shape and then I applied the offset, it's encroached into what I'd cut before from here. But the other one didn't have anything near it, and that's cut perfectly. So if you're going to scan more than one object on your mat and you want to use a shape, it will apply that shape to everything you've chosen. Right, let's see what's going on. Sandra's saying We do test you, sorry, it's fine. That's what it's for, isn't it? We're all learning, because I forget half the stuff. You know, because a lot of this stuff I don't always use. I don't always put a shape around it. I just prefer to scan and do an offset. So, you know, it's good for me as well to have a refresher to work out what works and what doesn't. Vicky's saying the shapes are according to the size of the object. Great tutorial, learning is fun. Thank you so much. Happy Valentine's Day. You're welcome. Bye, Barbara. JD Cougar's saying bye all. Thanks again, Ashley. You're welcome. Bye. Barbara Hart is saying very good tutorial. Thanks. Ellen is saying, Ashley, can you just explain the 3 red boxes and the icon next to them? I seem to have missed something. Okay. Just sat eating one of my daughter's Valentine chocolate orange cupcakes. Yummy. Oh, I wish I had one of those. Yes, it was. It was already cut out, Vicky, so it's cut into what I was doing. Yeah. Right, so Ellen wants to know about the 3 red boxes. Right, let me just, hang on. I'm just going to put the anchors back on the mat. I'm not going to cut these, I'm just going to try and use these to explain about the 3 red boxes for Ellen. So let's go back to the machine, hit the home button, load the map. So I'm going to say scan. What do we want? Let's do direct cut to the machine and start. I'm not going to cut this, I'm only scanning it so that we can get the 3 red boxes. Oh dear. So Vicky's saying, thank you Ashley, you've hit all the marks tonight. Oh, thank you Vicky. Alison's saying, thank you so much. Another great tutorial, Ashley. Thanks so much for your time again. We learn every week. Brilliant. Right, are we back on? We're back on the ScanNCut machine. Let's bring this back over so you can hear me. So for Ellen, I'm going to say OK. I'm going to drag in the red handles just to tell the machine this is the area I want to isolate. This is just for the scanning part, not for any editing part. I'm going to say preview. And I'm going to say OK. So now, Ellen, you can see, hopefully on the screen, I've got the 3 anchors, but I've got all these bits around here that I don't need. I can go back and I can say, if I know they're there when I'm at this point, I can say ignore object size. I know these anchors are about, what, 2 or 3 inches high, so I could say to the machine, ignore anything up to 2 inches and it will get rid of all those bits as best I can see from this angle I'm sat at. But let's take that back down so we put the bits back in and just say OK. So we'll say OK, we're telling the machine, yes, that's the bits we want. Now, there's a little bit here I can see and a little bit under this anchor here. What you can do, you can go to edit. The bits that you want to get rid of, you have to have some part of it highlighted. So if you look at the middle anchor here, there's a tiny little red box, and that means there's something under this anchor that's not part of this design. And there's also a bit over there. Because I had a group of things together, that's when I use the 3 red boxes. So what I can do with this one, I could come into the 3 red boxes, and if you use the first box, it will let you isolate an area. So I could drag this in now and isolate anything that's here that I don't need. In this particular instance, it's only that one bit there that's highlighted red. So if I say OK and OK, I can send that bit to the bin and it's gone. On the bit I did a few minutes ago, there was a few things up here, and that's why I used the three red boxes to isolate them. So does that help, Ellen? Great session, thank you. Mandy's saying, Philippa's saying, bye Ashley, many thanks for a great tutorial, just hope I can remember it all. Just play, or just, you know, watch the YouTube back. Just hit buttons and play. It's fine, you'll be fine, Philippa. So I'm just waiting for Ellen to let me know if she understands what I was doing. I'm just going to have a quick drink of my, I've got a tiny last little bit of juice left in my glass, so I'm having that. So Heather P is saying, learned loads, thanks Ashley, have a great week. You're welcome. Can you not just delete the red bit highlighted? You can, but Lynn, on when I was doing it a few minutes ago with the you know, the leaf and the flower, there was a cluster of things. So rather than just highlighting each individual little bit of that cluster and hitting the delete button, I was able to isolate all the bits in one go. Right, you understand now. Okay, Rachel's saying, bye Ashley, have a nice evening. Yes, same to you. Charlotte's saying, so the three red boxes access the selection tools. They access what's on your mat, basically. So if I wanted to get rid of everything that's on the mat, if I hit the three red boxes and choose the second icon, that will highlight everything that's on my mat, and then I could say okay, and I could, you know, group them or move them or whatever. If you just want to get rid of a few stray bits that are together, then you use, let's go back, undo that, you use the first box and isolate with your arrows. Right, that's the end of my juice. So I need to go and get a drink and something to eat. You missed that because you were eating your dinner. Yeah. Yeah, you literally, anything that you don't want, you can literally select each individual tiny little bit and hit the trash can. But if there's like a cluster of things together, then I would use the three red boxes. You've got to make something selected in the cluster that you want to delete. And then use, once you hit the three red boxes, use the first option, and then you can isolate that area with the red arrows and isolate the clustered area. And because you've got one element within that clustered area selected, it will know you want to select other things around it, if that makes sense. Sandra's saying, thank you so much for showing us this. As you say, just play and have fun with all the buttons. Only way to learn. It is the only way to learn. And if you're unsure and you make a mistake at the end of the day, just hit the home button on your machine and start again. You know, just rescan it and start again. Don't cut it. Charlotte's saying that makes it more powerful. Thank you. Lynn's saying, have a great week. Take care and stay safe, everyone. Yes, same to you, Lynn. Okay, so I've been on for an hour and a half, and I think I've just about exhausted everything in the ScanNCut data and the direct cut, so hopefully that's helped. And you know, like you said, a few of you learned something right at the beginning anyway, so that's good. Charlotte's saying, and thank you so much for all the info. We really put you in the hot seat. It's fine, honestly. Right, I'm going to unload the mat. and I'm going to go and get a drink and something to eat. JD Cougar saying, hope everyone has a great week. Yeah, same to you all. Right, I can't see any last minute questions or anything popping up. I'll give it a couple more seconds. If nothing pops up, I'm going to say goodbye. And as usual, stay safe to everybody, and hopefully see you all next week. Ellen's saying, you sure we're flying by the seat of your pants tonight? Alan's saying, that's handy knowing now that you have to have an item selected before isolating others. Didn't know that. Okay, yeah, you do. If you've got something else selected, it won't choose the area that you want. Terry P saying, thank you again, Ashley. Have a great evening. Yes, same to you. Right, just going to start packing things up, turning all my different cameras off, turn my machine off. Alan's saying thank you and have a good night. Okay, well, I can't see anything else popping up. I've just seen Ellie saying thank you for making me feel welcome all good night. Oh, you're welcome. It's gone black for a minute because I've just turned one of the cameras off. Thank you, Ellie. You're welcome. Come and join us again. 5 o'clock on a Sunday night we do this. So here's all the bits we've done tonight. Just need to put the cover back on the mat. JD Cougar saying, looking forward to seeing you with us again, Ellie. Yeah, definitely. Right, okay, everyone. Can't see any more questions now, so I'm going now. Oh, lovely, Ellie. Yeah, come back. See you all soon. Have a lovely week, whatever you're going to be doing in this lockdown, and hopefully we'll speak again next Sunday. No idea what we're going to do next Sunday. So if anyone's got any questions or comments for next Sunday, just message me and let me know. Patty H is saying, do you have a video regarding changing blades? I think it's in one of the maintenance ones, Patty. If you go to, it's probably likely to be in the playlist that's for the ScanNCut machine. And I think it's called maintenance or something like that. I think I covered it in there. But if you don't find anything, and if you're with us next week, if you remind me, I'll show you how to do it next week. Right, I'm going now. So good night, everybody. Take care, and I'll speak to you